Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie. I haven't met a couple of you face-to-face. I work in academic technology, which is a university-wide department that supports faculty and academic staff. My role is primarily training faculty and academic staff on Sakai and Zoom. And also I'm the person who answers most of the emails to the AT inbox. So if you have a question you're having with Zoom or Sakai, or you want to know how to use Google Docs, I'm usually the first line of support for that. And if I can't figure it out, I'll forward your ticket to Katie Golis, who's the director of academic technology, or Harold Hale, who is an honorary member of academic technology. He's our server administrator for Sakai and Zoom, and he knows all of the technical details and account setup and all the little nigglies that end up in the server. So if you have any questions ever, feel free to just start with at antioch.edu. And if it's about your hardware or a login issue that's not related to Sakai or Zoom, just put in a quick help desk ticket on AU Direct, and IT can help you with anything else, like your phone, your network, your hardware, if you're having trouble with colleague or a different account, all of those things sort of go to IT. But if it's Zoom or Sakai or teaching related technology, just shoot us an email at at@antioch.edu, and it will help you get hooked up with the right person, even if it's not us.
Thanks.
Today, we're going to talk about Sakai, and we're a very small group. So feel free to stay unmuted or unmute yourself as soon as you have a question. Feel free to interrupt me in the middle of something if it's pertinent to what we're talking about, so that you don't have to wait until 5 or 6 minutes later and you've forgotten about what your question is. I'm going to start at the very beginning, which my day usually starts by logging into AU Direct, because this is where I access most of the tools I need. Under your services pane, you'll find a link to Sakai. You'll find a link to AT, Academic Technology. That's our tutorial and training website. And if your services are closed, right now, what's really popular is our remote teaching guide and our remote learning guide. These have all of our tutorials, they have our training schedule, they have all the things we're working with while we're working remotely during this sort of emergency time. So this is a good place to start. You can drag, you see I have all these icons up on my dock here. If there's something you use a lot, you can drag it up to your dock and put it up here. Just remember to hit save layout. And then you can keep your services button closed most of the time, and you'll just have your favorites up here at the top. I usually hop in here and jump to Sakai. And you'll see you'll stay logged in, and your little profile will be over here. This is the Sakai homepage. And on this homepage right now, you'll see this announcement about we just upgraded to Sakai 20. So if you're having any issues that seem weird, that are different than before, you might need to clear your cache and cookies. And then below that, you will see all these tips for links to the sites that we give to students and faculty and staff. The two that are most useful right now, the Emergency Remote Teaching Guide, this is another place to find it. And our AU AT YouTube channel has all of our stored videos and tutorials. And we have playlists that link several tutorials together if they're all about the same topic. So if you're like, oh, Bonnie, do you have a tutorial on how to import, or how to upload your syllabus, or how to turn on the assignments tool because it's not in my sidebar? You will find little 2-minute tutorials, and you'll find recordings of our like 1-hour tutorials on there as well that you can search through. And of course, if you ask me a question, I am likely to send you back, oh, here we go. We have a 4-minute tutorial on that. Here's the link to it. So those are always down below on your Sakai homepage. Up here are your Sakai favorites. These are the sites that you have decided are the ones that you want on your header. They're not any there by default except for home. And if you want to add them, this is where the sites button used to be. All you have to do is add a star, the yellow star, and it will appear on your toolbar. Now you'll see I have 9 items starred, and you can only save 8 on your toolbar. So I have to decide to uncheck one of these, and it's going to be, I've got 9 selected, and I will just, this is the one that's not going to fit. All right, and so when I close, if I've changed anything, you'll get a little reload reminder right here that says reload this page, and you'll click reload and your changes will appear up here. The other place you can look for all of your sites is over here in the My Sites button. This should list them alphabetically. For those of you who are new, you won't have a lot to sort through. I have recently gone down from about 200 to 56, which is a nice small number that I like, so that I can find things. These are arranged alphabetically. The ones up here in sites are arranged by newest first. So if I had had any in the 2020 fall, spring semester or summer semester, they'd be up here above my 19 ones. And then your project sites and template sites will be down below. Any questions here? Anybody here on the West Coast? Okay, so you might want to go into your Sakai site the first time and under preferences, check your time zone. If you're an instructor and your time, if you're actually in, you know, Santa Barbara or Los Angeles, but your time zone is set to New York, you may get an announcement across the top of your page that says your time zone doesn't match your time zone. So when you create an assignment and you set an assignment due date, it's based on your time zone that you've set here in Sakai. So make sure that you set yours to America's Los Angeles or whichever one makes sense. I think America Los Angeles is the best one. I am not going to change mine because I am in fact in New Hampshire over here on the East Coast. All right. So we're going to work today in my sample course site. And starting with fall courses, we've uploaded a new template for the courses. And it's meant to try to show you what we want to propose that you put in your course, but also to give you total flexibility to delete our instructions and suggestions and do what you want. So the first page of your site is the overview page, and it's usually set up with the overview text box on the left where you can put in whatever you like, and then you show announcements on the right. They're usually empty before you get started, and then as you add them, this will always show the last 10 days worth of announcements. These tools down this sidebar here, go ahead.
Yeah, when I open my overview page, I have welcome part and then the calendar, but not announcements.
Okay, that's something we can look at. You will see here in your Manage Overview button. In previous templates, different campuses chose what they wanted in their template. So that they have turned on. So this is showing me that the calendar widget is unavailable, and that's because I don't have the calendar tool turned on.
Yeah, I'm seeing Manage Overview.
You don't see it, or you do?
I do not see.
In the upper right of your page, do you have to scroll way off? All right. At the end of the session, why don't we swap screens? I'll have you share your screen and we'll try to fix that for you.
Okay, well, I'm on my iPad with my Sakai, so I can have both. But I'll check my big computer.
All right. If you're not logged in, only the instructor will have that. So if you're not logged in as you and you're only logged in as a guest, you wouldn't have that Manage Overview.
Okay.
Do you have the edit button on your overview page? Right here. Okay, so that's telling me that you may not be logged in as yourself. You may be in student view.
Okay, let's see. Oh, if I click on my initials, I get preferences, tutorial, and log out.
Oh, have you not clicked on a course yet? Are you still in your home site? Are you on home?
I'm still on my home site.
Yes, you can't manage your overview on your home site. You
Thank
have
you.
to be in your course site to manage your overview.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. To edit your overview, you just simply click
Found
this edit button.
Okay.
And it just takes a second. This is called the CK editor, just an editor window. If it's too small and you want to be able to see more of what you're editing, feel free to grab this little arrow at the bottom and make it bigger so you can see more. Just realize you have an internal scroll bar and an external scroll bar. All of these tools are very similar to the tools that you have in Word. All right, so if you're just editing text, and you might have this blank template in your course if we create one for you. And you can do things like you change this. So if I was PSYC 5500, you can just highlight the text just like you would in Word. Change the text. You can then delete our instructions and you can just type in your own, description of your course if you want to. Copy and paste it in from your syllabus. We are all meeting on Zoom, or most of us are meeting on Zoom for our class times this day. So we strongly suggest that you put your meeting days and times. Tuesdays, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern, just to be clear about when it is. And when you've created your Zoom link, we invite you to come in here and put Zoom meeting link. You can go copy it from your invitation page. You highlight the text and you click this little link document and you'll see you get a dialog box. And that's my Zoom link. So I have the display text up here. It's a URL link type and I put the link down here. Then I say, okay, and that'll make it a link. It's just like using the right click and hyperlink feature if you're in Word or if you're in Google Docs. You can put your name in here. And these are instructions again, if you wanted to change this video, this image. To make it easy, you can just double click the image. You can browse your server. Now this is going to bring you to the resources folder in this course. And if you've already got an image in there, you can select it. But most of you'll come into a blank course. So you'll want to upload using this button. It looks like a little disk now. Upload a file from your desktop. So I would go to my desktop and I would get my headshot or a pretty photo of Mount Monadnock or whatever I have. I am going to use this one because I'm on a different computer than usual. I hope my friend Dawn won't mind. It's taking a little while to upload because it's sort of a large photo. And you'll see that's the one that's selected. And when you say okay, it puts a new URL in there that's a link to it. So this is a one-step process for uploading a file to your resources and putting that image on a page. Now, you'll never want an image that's that big. You probably won't want anything over 400. For a headshot, 275 is probably fine. And you can just say, okay. And voila, I'll impersonate my friend. As you can see, the instructions are still here. So if you want to get rid of the instructions, you delete them just the way you delete text. You'll see these are a list. And you'll see that up here, this list item is selected. If you wanted them to be a numbered list instead of a bulleted list, you could choose the different list items, just like Word. Of course, we're trying to get rid of this because we don't really need that.
Bonnie, I have a question about inserting images.
Sure.
Can you defined the pixel dimensions of the
Yep.
picture that you inserted? Can you sort of, can you click and drag to resize it? Or with Sakai, do you actually have to, you know, type in the numbers to resize an image?
With Sakai, you need to type in either the width or the height.
Okay.
It will change proportionally. So if you wanted this to be 300, you'll see the height automatically changed so that you're not stretching an image. So one of the reasons they do that is so you don't grab a corner and stretch it non-proportionally and then it gets blurry or out of whack. So yes.
Yeah, got
Now
it.
notice, you're only changing the visible size of this image. You saw when I uploaded it, it was 1800 pixels tall and 1800 pixels wide, which makes for a really large file to download. So you'll want to have a smaller version. And your images probably won't be that big unless you take them with a high speed digital camera. You know, if you send yourself a iPhone photo of yourself, it won't be quite that big. So you won't have
Right.
to worry about it. And you'll see it will look a little bit different in the screen because of the width than after I hit save. So here I've got my email, which you can link if you want to by copying your email address, hitting the link button again, and this email type is an email, and you just paste in the email address. You could paste in a subject or a body, but I don't usually. I just put in my email. When I click OK, you'll see now it's a linked email address. So if they click on it, it should open their mail app. You don't have to do that because our mail app, Gmail, doesn't usually connect, but it does help if people are using their non-Antioch email. And then you can have your office hours. And if you have a different link for your office hours than you do for the class you're teaching, then you can put that in and you know, you can specify it's online, or you can just like, they don't need to know my office location. Just take it out. Now, the most important part of editing this page and of any page, Sakai doesn't have much in the way of autosave. It will save this text if you're in here long enough. But you always want to hit update options as the very next thing you do. Don't say to yourself, oh, that looks good, I'm going to go to my lessons now. Always hit update options and let the page resize itself and take a peek. Make sure you save all that work that you did. Okay. And you can come and change this overview page throughout your Sakai course. If something comes up and it's important, you can put a big red announcement at the top. If you've made a typo, you can come in and change it. There's nothing that says this has to stay the same the whole time. And if you don't have a headshot of yourself, that's fine. If you want to put in, say, an introductory video that's you talking to the screen, we can help you embed a video in here so you can introduce yourself to the students. It's really hard to get to know people during this remote time. We jumped into the middle of a semester, starting with remote in spring, and the faculty already knew their students because they'd been in class together for a couple of months in most cases. Now we're starting fall where we might have brand new students who don't know us. So whatever way you can increase student engagement and let people really get to know you quickly in your course, you can develop rapport a lot faster, I think, with a quick 2-minute introductory video of you speaking. And Zoom really helps with that. Audrey, do you have another question?
I don't, Bonnie. I think I raised my hand back when you said, who's in Los Angeles? So,
Oh,
and I
okay.
actually forgot how to lower my own hand. So,
Okay.
oh, here we go.
Yep,
I figured it out.
Usually when people
Yeah.
ask questions, I usually lower their hand when I say, do you have a question? But I didn't do that last time either. So it just slipped by both of us. So no worries. All right, so that's your overview page. Does anybody have any thoughts about, you know, other questions about how to do that?
No, but I'm so glad you're recording this so I can come back to it.
Yeah,
In a few
I
weeks.
mean, it's hard to write notes and watch and listen all at the same time, and that's sort of why we do this. Okay, So
Bonnie, were you going to show how to embed a video on the overview page?
I was not, only because so few people do it and it's a little complicated. It's much easier. On the lessons page, we have this cool little tool where you add content and you embed content on the page. You embed a video, and all you have to do is put the YouTube link to the video in there. These are a bunch of different ones that I've done. But in the overview page, you have to go and get the embed code, and then you have to go into the source code, which is up here, and that often scares people off, so I tend not to show it in my first class. But AG's happy to help you do it.
Got it.
And just know you can turn on Zoom, you can share your screen if you're showing something else, or you can just record yourself talking. You hit start, you hit stop, you end your meeting, and then we can help you embed that video on your homepage. You can even take 5 different takes of you doing it until you get one that you really like. And we can help you embed it on your page if that's something that's of interest to you.
Thank you.
So let's jump down to, you'll see I don't have anything on my sidebar called syllabus, and most of you will. But if something is missing that you expect to be here, like your forums or your assignments or a tool that you didn't even know existed, you can go into site info. This is interesting. When you go into site info, you'll have 2 rows of tabs. And in the top tab under manage tools, that's where you see all the tools that are available in Sakai, which ones you currently have turned on and which ones you can turn on. So for example, if I scroll down alphabetically to syllabus and I check it and I hit continue, and then very important, you have to hit finish. You'll see the syllabus appear down here at the bottom of my toolbar. Now that's not usually where people want to put it. So you also have the tool order option here in site info. I'm still in the site info tool. And you can just drag it from the bottom up to the top, or second to the top, or wherever you want it. Let it go and hit save. By default, syllabus is on in the template, so you shouldn't have to do that. But if you're like, oh, should I use this blog tool? Let me try it out. Do I want to add the calendar? Let me try that out. You can definitely do that in Manage Tools. Adding your syllabus is pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you what the page looks like if you came in here from scratch. One thing that confuses people is adding an item versus adding a syllabus. So when you're adding an item, what you're really doing is adding a box that you have labeled. So I'm creating a box called Syllabus and Rubrics. You can call it whatever you want, syllabus and course materials, just plain syllabus, just plain rubrics. And you add and publish that box. When you add and publish this box here, that's when you get the button to add an attachment. And this is where you would add your syllabus. So when you click the add attachment button, you have a couple of options. You can upload a local file, which is what most people have their syllabus in a Word doc or PDF on their desktop. And you can choose that file. I am going to pick just a random Word document. It uploads, and now you have to hit continue in order to add it to your list. You can also add a link to a website. And in this case, you need to copy and paste that link. So I'd need to go find it on a website somewhere if I wanted them to go to Google. Just copy the link, paste it in here, and I can add that link. And you can continue. and you'll see it added it to the list. And the third option you can do is to select an item that you have uploaded to your resources. So if you had, for example, a copy of this Read, Write, and Gold training manual that you wanted under your syllabus and rubrics, or if you had put your syllabus here already, you can just select an item from your resources. When you click the name of the item, it opens it to see if it's the right thing. And then when you click attach a copy over here, that's when it'll actually bring you back to the attachment screen and allow you to continue. Now, you have a trash can next to each item, so you could delete it if it wasn't the right thing. Pretty easy. You can't reorder these items unless you delete them and you put them up in the right order. That's the only way I know how to reorder items in a box. If you needed another item on your page, you could create another box, add and publish that box, and now you'd have two boxes on your syllabus page, one for your syllabus and rubrics, one for your other course materials, and you could put different things in here. That's a more complicated setup than most people do, but if you felt the need to put these items in sections, totally able to do that on the syllabus page. And this expand all item allows you to have those all the way open or collapse all of the sections. And I don't recommend you collapse them, but it's for you. Each student or person logged in will get to choose what their view is, whether it's expanded or whether it's closed. Hillary?
Am I unmuted? Okay. So to add things to the resources, I'm seeing resources on the left-hand side. It's just a simple upload there.
So we're gonna go over resources again. Why don't we skip over to that since you asked? So the resources is just an online repository, a folder with subfolders and maybe subfolders where you can place items. If you have a syllabus you haven't uploaded to your resources and it's on your desktop, using the syllabus tool, you can do both of those things at once. Every time you link to something, you connect an image onto your overview page, you put an image or a document that you've attached on a lessons page, it puts a copy of that in your resources and links to that copy.
Oh, okay.
So there's a 2-for-1 there. But if, for example, you have a whole page of, writing resources for students, and all you want to do, you can come in here. This is your root folder. You could create a new folder. And so we could call it Writing Resources. I'll just create that folder. Now you'll see down here alphabetically, I have an empty Writing Resources folder. I've got just a blue outline. This one has something in it because it's dark blue and it's got a plus sign in it. Then to upload items, you just use the Upload Files dialog box. And you can drag and drop files here, or you can click this button and you can browse and say, upload this graphic that you want. And you can upload multiple items at once. So when you do this, I don't usually notify myself that I've put something in the resources. I leave material as in the public domain, or you can change it to I hold the copyright. It's up to you. Hit continue. And then you'll see now we have an item in our folder called Writing Resources. When you open it, that's the only item in there.
Thank you.
No problem. You have many other options in here. You can edit the details, like you can make it public or you can hide it so that other people can't get to it except for you. You can move it to the trash. You can duplicate it. You can make it a web content link.
Can you show us what happens if you hide it, where it goes?
If you hide it, let me see if I have one up here already. It stays here, but I believe it's gray. Right here. This one is hidden. It's got an I crossed out.
Okay.
So I can see it because I'm the owner and instructor in this site, but no one else in my site can see this except for other instructors.
Okay, thank you. That's
So
handy.
that would be something, notes to self, things that you don't want your students to be able to see.
Yeah.
Because your students, if you leave this resource visible, they can come in here and navigate and look for things. You'll see site info is hidden from students, and this course content is hidden from students. You can hide any tool from students if you don't want them to see it right now, or if you don't want them to ever see it. So if you don't want people digging around in your resources files, but you want them to be available where you've placed them on a page, you can just go into site info, and it's one of the tool order options to say, hide my resources or hide any tool. Make this tool invisible to students. That just means they won't see it on their sidebar. They won't click in there and try to use it from the outside. We have a tool called statistics, which we always hide from students. They don't need to be able to drill around and see the site statistics. It might even be hidden by default. If you're not using your grade book to show to your students, I don't know why you would use it and not show it to them, but any of these tools could be hidden. So let's just say you don't want them to see your announcements yet. You can hide this tool so they can't drill in here and look at them until you've seen them. And anything you've left in draft mode in any of your tools will also usually be gray and hidden from students, and you'll be able to tell the difference. So for example, I'll just cancel that one. If you're in your announcements, you have this draft will never be seen by students. Only the actual published announcements will be able to be seen by the students. All right, so I just want to stop for a minute and give everybody a minute to think of any questions they've got so far or digest some information. Would you guys, how many of you have a site already built that you can play around in?
No, I do.
Susan has one. Hillary and Jennifer, are you guys teaching in fall? No, okay.
I am, but I have a note here to email you after this. I haven't been given a login for AU Direct yet, or a Sakai course or any of that. So,
okay, you need to have an AU Direct login first.
mm-hmm.
And that AU Direct login will be the same one that you use in Sakai. And if anybody wants a test site that only they can see, we can create a copy of the template. You can mess with it with your heart's content and know that no one else is in there. Or if you're working with another faculty member who wants you to say, oh, I taught this class last year, I can make you a copy of their site. And then you can tweak it if you're teaching a class that someone else has taught online in the past. Just all I need is just an email or tell me at the end of this meeting, and I'll create you sort of a, like my sample site that we're working in now. This is my sample course site.
Bonnie, I have a question. If somebody else teaches our course, can they, and you say, you know, you can send them our Sakai site. Is there any way of keeping our, you know, what it has our work in it, not sharing that work?
I only share another instructor's site if I have permission from the original instructor.
Okay,
So
thanks.
if Hillary told me, Susan was teaching this class last time and she said I could make a copy of her site, I just make sure that you are CC'd on the email and say, Susan, is it okay if I make a copy of your site for Hillary? And is there anything you want to strip out of it first? Or
Okay, thanks. Yeah, because
yeah.
there would be things that I would take out.
Yeah, or we could make the copy and I could allow you to take them out of the copy so that you didn't have to erase them from your original. That's what,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
So we consider courses instructor material. We always ask for permission before copying a site. We often get requests to say, I've talked to so-and-so and he said it's okay if, and I just make sure they're CC'd and I just get an official okay. We also have empty sites and we have master sites that don't belong to an individual, so that you have a copy of a course site that I could look at. I don't care what the topic is, but you know, how is it laid out? We have that sort of thing that we can make for people as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move into announcements. And that's the last thing we'll cover, except for we're going to leave lots of time for questions at the end. and even some practice if you guys need to get some things answered. So announcements are exactly what they sound like. They are a written announcement, and they could have an attachment that is released to everyone in your site. They live on this announcements tool in the sidebar, so all the announcements that you have put forward in your course for this semester would all accumulate in here. The drafts, if you've created any, let's say you want to release it next week and you're not ready, you're not done with it yet, if you leave it in draft mode, only the instructors in your course will see it. I think academic support might be able to see it, but students will not be able to see it. The other place that announcements appear on the traditional template is on the homepage. Anything that you have released in the last 10 days will stay on the this announcement section of the homepage, which I wish they would call recent announcements, because that's really what it is. It's just the last 10 days. And that's just because the assumption is when people come into your Sakai course, they're going to come to the overview page first. Just know that doesn't always happen. If I was last in the grade book and then I left Sakai and I came back in a few hours later on the same course, I would come back to the page that I was on. I would come back to the gradebook page. You don't always land on the overview page every time you come in. But students know, because we try to make all the courses similar, that recent announcements will be here. When you come to the announcements page, if you wanted to add a new one or start a new one, you click the add button. You'll see, like most of the features, it has a title and a long description area, which you can call anything you want. We recommend your title be less than 80 characters. That's the typical limit for a subject in an email. So, what to do for our first class meeting. And then you can put anything in here, because you see it's a CK editor text box. You can make this bigger if you have a long announcement. Now, for example, I'm going to open a Word document. And this is true anytime you're working in Word, or even if you're copying and pasting something from Google Docs or Google Sheets. The best way to paste it in here, now I've copied it from another open window. When I paste, I hit Control-Shift-V. And that pastes it in, you'll see, in just plain text. Now that won't get rid of any of my number formatting. It won't get rid of any links that I might have in here, so you won't lose any of that. But if I had pasted it in with a regular paste, you'll see I get a weird background. I get the wrong font is in here. I'm going to look at the source code for a minute and show you this is a very clean source code. And then this is all the gunk. That's a very technical term, gunk. The coding that Word and Docs paste in behind the scenes that tells you what family and font style and color it is. And it's really messy, and it's a lot of extra weight to download. So whenever you paste, if you paste as plain text using Control-Shift-V, or if you use this button here instead of the regular paste button, this will paste it as plain text and not as this formatted text, which can be hard to work with because you can't get a lot of the details out of. So if I wanted to, I can use these styles, give it a heading 1, and you'll see when things are connected, they all go together. So if I undo that, and I put a return in between, I can just make this a heading 1. I can put in my paragraph spacing there. If I want this to be the heading 2, again, you'll see they're attached to each other. Another way I can fix that is to put my return in after and highlight this and go back to normal. Or I can strip formatting. All right, so we'll try going back to normal. So just like any other Word document, you can have, again, I'm gonna do this right this time, make this a heading 3. These heading styles help reading aloud browsers, especially for students with disabilities or vision issues, to know where they are in a document. H1 is at the top, H2 is a sub-level below that, H3 is a sub-level below that. And you'll see this is plain text, just the numbers typed in. If I wanted that to be a list, using the list formatting allows the reading browser to read list item 1, list item 2. But if you just do these numbers, 1, 3 period, 4 period, you don't get to do all that.
So Bonnie, in other
So
words,
I
using
think-
the formatting features of the of Sakai allows a vision impaired student to hear where they are in the text. Is that?
Yeah, much better. And it's not so much a Sakai feature as it is, it makes the HTML code behind the text nicer. There's also this little accessibility checker in here. This document does not contain any accessibility issues. We haven't fully tested all the features in there, so I won't go into that in detail, but that's a new little checker. And as is this spell checker, as you'll see, the blue underlines indicate grammar. I think green indicates passive voice. Red is usually a spelling error, but you can turn on and turn off those. Apparently, it won't let you turn off them once you've turned on the spell checker until after you hit save. So it doesn't like our human resources language very much. All right, so when you have finished your heading, you know, the subject and the body of your message, you can have a lot more formatting. You can have links in here, anything you want. You get to choose who can see it. So only members of this site can see the announcement is the usual post. You don't usually make them publicly available. You can show it right now. You can put it in draft mode and hide it until you come back and put it in post mode. Or you can specify a date when you want it to open. And we typically only want you to specify a open date and time. Here, I will want this to be shown on my site at July 21st at 4:05 p.m. Or maybe I'll make it 4:15 with my plus and minus buttons on my minutes. And that will release it at that time without me having to come back and do anything. All right, so if you want your weekly announcement released on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and you don't want to log into Sakai and do it manually, you can just set it up so that it releases your next announcement at that time. If you choose an end date, it will totally hide that announcement after that time. So the students won't be able to see it in your site as history, as what might have happened a week ago. So we typically recommend you just choose a beginning date if you want to release it at a certain time. You can add an attachment or multiple attachments. So if you have a rubric or if you have an assignment you've already written up in Word, you don't need to copy and paste it into the body of the announcement. You can just put it in as an attachment, especially if there's any formatting or it's a PDF or something like that. And then you get to choose whether you're going to email people this announcement and post it on the page or just post it on the page. If you do no notification, this will just be posted on your Sakai page and people will see it the next day and they'll come to Sakai. If you say, hi, all participants, this will send the announcement to every member of your course. This means students, it means other instructors, it means the people on your course who are listed as academic support. Most of them know that they get a million irrelevant announcements and they are managing them with Gmail filters or put them somewhere else. But if it's, especially during COVID, I would say it's a good idea to email hi most of your announcements because people are just frazzled and trying to keep track of stuff. And notifying people in 2 places is as good as or better than just leaving it on the site and hoping they see it. If you say low, people can decide that for this site, they want to turn off low priority announcements. So if you do low, only people who haven't turned that off will get it via email. Most students don't bother turning it off. So I typically only use high or none. I generally don't label anything a low priority, but I can see how there might be a reason for you to do that. So if you now post this announcement, nothing will happen until tomorrow at 4:15 p.m., at which point it will both be emailed out and published on your site. If you change it just to show, you can do that right now. If you change it to hide, it'll stay in draft mode until you come back and tell it to do something else. I will post this announcement.
So Bonnie, if you were to hit show, it still has that email notification though?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if it doesn't change the email notification when you change the bullet on show or hide. So you can decide those things separately. They're independent of each other. You don't have to time something. So you'll see this is gray, but it's not a draft. It's gray because it hasn't been published yet. And it will be published at 4:15 tomorrow. So when you come in and look at your announcements, you'll be able to tell the difference between those that have been posted, those that are in draft mode, and those that are about to be posted on a certain day or time. All right, that's all of the content that I wanted to provide you up front. But I imagine I have stirred up a lot of thoughts. Do you have any?
I have a question. Yeah.
Go ahead, Susan.
I just tried. I've never been able to change my courses on the top, and I've always had to weed through them. So I went in and did that and put a star to my faculty site, but it said reload to see your updated favorite sites.
Yes, so hit the word reload.
Oh,
And then you'll see that your favorites have been updated at the top.
yes.
I'll show you one on my site. So if I
Just
remove
today.
this one and I put this one on instead,
Yeah.
and I close this, I get reload to see your updated favorites. And now when I reload, it took off one of my sites and added a different one.
Great. Thank you. That's always been a mystery to me.
Yes, some people assume that when the new semester happens, everybody's new sites get put on their favorites, but those favorites are manually controlled by the owner of the account.
Yeah. Thank you.
Another thing that is confusing people lately with the new version of Sakai is their Sakai site ends up looking like this. And they tell us, I can't get to my sites. I can't get to anything in Sakai. Nothing's there. And it's because you've hit this full screen view and you need to go back to the normal view that shows your favorites and shows your sidebar. And that button is on every page now, and it used to be only on a few different pages, but we've had a few people doing that. So we've had students who come and look at their roster and say, there's nobody in my roster, or I can't view gradebook. And what happens is you need to empty your cache and cookies because your web browser is remembering what was in the old version of Sakai, and it can't reconcile it with what it's supposed to see now. And if you just empty out that false memory, and I have a link in the signature of my email that tells you how to find it, but you can easily just say how to empty cache in Firefox. All right, quick search, and there'll be step-by-step instructions of where to find it in the browser you're using. It might be Safari, it might be Chrome, it might, if you're silly, be Microsoft Edge. But whatever web browser you're using, you can find instructions on how to empty your cache and cookies.
Bonnie, I have a question about the about Sakai sites appearing in that, what do you call that upper bar, quick links?
Up here,
or
the favorites.
the favorites. So students are often, when I orient new students, we always have to tell them, you know, where their Sakai sites will be located so they can find the Zoom link for their classes.
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a new student and I register for 4 classes, and so I'm only going to have 4 Sakai sites, will those automatically appear in my favorites, or do I need to go into the little grid of squares and star them?
You have to go in and star them. Nothing goes up there by default.
Okay.
So you might only see 4 things in here, but all the stars start out as empty by default.
Okay.
So we do have a short tutorial on the AUAT YouTube site for how to manage your favorites in Sakai. And it's on our list of videos, but it's a little 2-minute thing. So if you ever wanted to send that out to students with a link to it, instead of having to rewrite your instructions all the time, feel free to just come and find that video. And here's customizing your AU Direct buttons. In here, I'm pretty sure we have one on your Sakai favorites. And also in our playlists, we have an intro to Sakai for students and intro to Sakai overview for faculty and staff too, if you want to look at those. Those have some of the things we've talked about today are in this overview for faculty and staff. We have the same thing for Zoom for students and Zoom for instructors. Zoom for students is usually about attending Zoom sessions. It emphasizes how to join a Zoom session, and the Zoom for instructors is how to set up and host a Zoom session and manage your attendees and things like that. And you'll see if you're in here, Zoom keeps changing its video links. So if you come in here, you'll see they're just a series of 2-minute, 1-minute videos on how to do each thing in Zoom. And I'll come in here and fix this starter video because they seem to have moved it on me.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, when they land in Zoom and Sakai for the first time, their header will be blank except for this home button. They'll have to look in My Sites to navigate to their sites, or up here in the site's favorite in order to make favorites. You can even navigate from here. You can just click on one and go in it.
I noticed that students have their sites in their AU Direct now, so that they can click on them without having to launch Sakai. They can click on them in sort of the main window of AU Direct, which was it was a change I wasn't aware of, but my work study assistant shared his screen with me one time, and I thought, oh, you have all of your master's classes listed there on your AU Direct homepage.
They keep making changes to AU Direct, and we as staff can't always see what happens in the student account. I happen to have signed up for a class once upon a time, so I'm also a student, but I don't have any active courses right now. I did see that on a friend's account who is both an employee and a student, though,
Right.
when they first log in there. And we have this all employees space in spaces, and this is where a lot of our policies and our financial information and our human resources information is now, where you can find things in here. Students may have, it may be a part of the all students desktop now that they've added to that.